The story of the Tamsui Railway Branch Line begins with the origins of Tamsui Port. In 1858, the Treaty of Tientsin designated Tamsui Port as an international trading port, officially opening it to trade in 1860. Initially, goods were unloaded at Taipei and Dadaocheng. However, as sediment increasingly clogged the river at Taipei, Dadaocheng emerged as northern Taiwan's primary distribution hub. At the time, merchants from Britain and the United States established foreign firms in Dadaocheng, engaging in international trade of tea, sugar, and camphor. The trade in Dadaocheng, actively managed by foreign firms, brought wealth and prosperity to the area. By 1865, Tamsui Port had become Taiwan's largest import and export harbor and the primary gateway for international trade. Goods from domestic ports were transported to Tamsui Port and then redistributed to ports along the Chinese coast and beyond. In 1891, during Liu Ming-chuan's administration, plans were made to facilitate the transport of goods between Taipei and Keelung. Liu initially proposed a railway route connecting Keelung Port to Taipei and extending to Hsinchu. The Keelung Harbor Railway was completed in 1891, enabling train services between Taipei and Keelung, with the first Taipei railway station located in Dadaocheng. In 1895, Taiwan was ceded to Japan. Due to policy considerations, the Japanese chose not to transport goods via Tamsui Port through mainland China. Instead, they designated Keelung Port as the primary trade hub. Goods previously unloaded at Tamsui Port and distributed through Dadaocheng were redirected to Keelung Port for shipment to Japan and onward to global destinations. From 1895 to 1898, the Japanese aimed to utilize the railway system to transport goods to Keelung. However, they found Liu Ming-chuan's railway unsuitable due to its uneven and rugged construction. As a result, the railway between Taipei and Keelung was dismantled and reconstructed between 1895 and 1898, enabling smoother transportation of goods from Dadaocheng to Keelung for export. The salvaged rails from the dismantled line were repurposed for the construction of the Tamsui Line. In 1899, the Japanese began expanding Keelung Port to solidify its role as Taiwan's primary trading hub. This expansion continued until 1944, spanning 5 phases of development, underscoring the strategic importance Japan placed on Keelung Port and its ambition to expedite the transport of goods to Japan. By 1900, following the completion of the Taipei-Keelung Railway reconstruction, the Japanese observed severe sedimentation in the Tamsui River, which prevented large vessels from reaching Dadaocheng. Additionally, there were no roads between Tamsui and Dadaocheng for transporting goods. To transport goods previously unloaded at Tamsui Port to Keelung Port, the Japanese began constructing the Tamsui Line in 1900. They repurposed the rails dismantled from Liu Ming-chuan's old railway to build the Tamsui Railway Branch Line. After taking control of Taiwan, the Japanese deemed Liu Ming-chuan's 106.1-kilometer railway from Keelung to Hsinchu to be of poor quality and limited utility. Except for a 0.8-kilometer segment that was retained, nearly the entire line was dismantled, with the materials repurposed for constructing the Tamsui Branch Line. The primary objective of the Tamsui Branch Line was to address the sedimentation issues in the Tamsui River. Instead of relying on river transport, goods unloaded at Tamsui Port were carried by rail to Taipei and Dadaocheng, connecting with the railway from Taipei to Keelung, and then shipped to Keelung Port for further export. Construction of the Tamsui Branch Line began in 1900 and was completed on August 25, 1901. Historically known as the Taipei-Tamsui Line, it spanned a total length of 21.2 kilometers from Taipei to Tamsui, making it Taiwan's first railway branch line. The opening ceremony was held on October 25, 1901, alongside the inauguration of the second-generation Taipei railway station. In 1901, when the Tamsui Branch Line was first opened, it included 5 stations: Taipei, Yuanshan, Shilin, Beitou, and Tamsui. When the Tamsui Branch Line was completed in 1901, the starting station evolved over time to accommodate passenger and freight demands. The starting station of the Tamsui Branch Line when it first opened was Taipei Station, with the 6th platform exclusively designated for the Tamsui Line. The terminal station of the line was Tamsui Station. In 1903, Dadaocheng Station was added as the new starting station. In 1915, passenger services at Dadaocheng Station ceased, and it was converted into a freight station. Beimen Station was newly added to replace Dadaocheng Station, and the starting station of the Tamsui Branch Line was moved to Beimen. However, Beimen Station served as the starting station in name only, as trains continued to depart from Taipei Station. By 1923, all passenger operations had shifted back to Taipei Station, leading to the closure of Beimen Station, and Taipei Station resumed its role as the starting station for the Tamsui Line. In addition to the 5 stations opened in 1901, several others were subsequently added. Dadaocheng Station and Jiangtu Station were established in 1903, followed by Beimen Station, Dazhengji Station, Shuanglian Station, Gongzixia Station, and Qilian Station in 1915. Zhuwei Station opened in 1932, Wangjiamio Station in 1958, and Zhongyi Station in 1960. Among these, Gongzixia Stop was primarily established to facilitate visits to the Taiwan Shrine. Before Tamsui Line's Guandu Station, there was a short tunnel located at Lane 300, Dadu Road. It was the only tunnel along the Taipei-Tamsui Line and was called Jiangtu Tunnel. The railway track curved sharply toward Tamsui after exiting the tunnel. It is said that in earlier times, passengers traveling by train through the tunnel would silently pray for safety, hoping the train would not derail and fall into the Tamsui River. During the Tamsui Railway era, the tunnel included not only tracks but also a pedestrian walkway wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. If one was unlucky enough to encounter a passing steam locomotive, they would emerge covered in soot. Walking through the tunnel was a shared memory for many. Later, the Guandu Tunnel was widened and repurposed for the Taipei Metro, but the pedestrian path was removed. Shuanglian Station, located near the Dadaocheng Wharf along the Tamsui River, became the busiest freight station on the Tamsui Line. From its various upgrades over the years, established as Shuanglian Stop in 1915, upgraded to Shuanglian Halt in 1924, and reconstructed as Shuanglian Station in 1943, it is evident how significant its role in freight transport was during that era. Aside from Shuanglian Station, other stations related to freight transport include Wangjiamio Station and Zhongyi Station. In 1958, Wangjiamio Station was added to facilitate commuting for employees of the Tatung Company Beitou plant. Trains only stopped at this station during work hours, bypassing it at other times. In 1960, Zhongyi Station was established, initially for passenger services. In 1964, for the convenience of passengers, bulk cargo services were added. In 1965, began handling full car freight transport, prompting the addition of a siding for freight operations. Both Wangjiamio and Zhongyi were classified as request stops, consisting only of platforms and station signs, and were managed by Beitou Station. In 1896, Japanese national Hirata Jengdo opened Taiwan's first hot spring in Tengguen, in Beitou. By 1904, the Japanese Army established a military sanatorium at the Beitou Hot Springs. In 1909, Daikichi Imura, the Japanese-appointed governor of Taipei Prefecture, approved the reconstruction of the Takinoyu bathhouse into the Hokuto Public Bathhouse, underscoring the importance of the Beitou Hot Springs to the Japanese. In 1916, the lightweight tracks of the Tamsui Line, inherited from the Qing dynasty, were replaced with heavy rails, and the Shinbei Branch Line was added, branching from Beitou Station. Nicknamed the Bath Line, the branch spanned 1.2 kilometers and was dedicated to sulfur mining and transporting visitors to Shinbei for hot spring baths, making it the first railway line in Taiwan designed primarily for tourism. In 1937, the Shinbei Station was expanded to accommodate the increasing number of visitors. The roof was extended, and an additional dormer window was installed, resulting in an asymmetric 3+1 dormer arrangement. In 1988, the Xinbei to Branch Line, like the main Tamsui Line, was dismantled to make way for Taipei's MRT system. In 1989, the station's components were relocated and reconstructed at the Taiwan Folk Village in Zhanghua for public exhibition. In 2014, the Xinbei station was relocated back to Beitou. Today, the station is preserved adjacent to the Xinbei MRT station and is open to the public for tours. Between 1865 and 1905, Tamsui Port experienced its golden age. After Tamsui Port was replaced by Keelung Port, passenger transport became the primary focus of the Tamsui Railway Branch Line. In 1986, the government officially approved the MRT construction plan, sealing the fate of the Tamsui Line's operations. On July 15, 1988, the Tamsui Line operated for the final day, attracting large crowds eager to ride it one last time. At 11:20 p.m. that evening, the final train to Tamsui departed from the 6th platform of Taipei Station, marking the end of the Tamsui Line's 87 years of service. On July 16, a special last train to Tamsui event added one final train before the Tamsui Line officially ceased operations and became part of history. Starting in 1990, the surface tracks and stations of the Tamsui Line were gradually dismantled to make way for the construction of a high-capacity MRT system. During this transition, bus services temporarily replaced public transport between Taipei and Tamsui. On March 28, 1997, the Taipei Metro Tamsui Line officially opened, becoming Taiwan's first MRT line converted from a traditional railway. Stations rebuilt on their original sites include Yuanshan, Shilin, Shirpai, Beitou, Xinbeitou, Zhongyi, Guandu, Zhuwei, and Tamsui. New MRT stations added during the project include Zhongshan, Shuanglian, Mingquan West Road, Zhishan, Mingda, Qilian, Qian, Fuxinggang, and Hongshalin. The MRT project reused the original route of the Tamsui Line, with many stations constructed on the same locations as the original railway, facilitating a smoother development process. The opening of the Taipei Metro Tamsui Line marked it as Taiwan's first MRT system converted from a traditional railway. In the history of Taiwan's railway development, the Tamsui Branch Line holds significant historical meaning. Tamsui, Taiwan's earliest international trading port, has long transformed into a bustling harbor city. Today, it remains a hotspot for tourism, boasting numerous historic landmarks. The picturesque railway route along the Tamsui River from Taipei to Tamsui continues to captivate people's attention. Following its transformation in 1997, the Tamsui Branch Line was revitalized as part of the MRT system. By preserving the original railway route, the MRT allows passengers to still enjoy the scenic beauty of the Tamsui shoreline. Through its transformation, Tamsui now boasts a wealth of historical landmarks that evoke rich memories of its past, such as Fort San Domingo, the Tamsui Customs Wharf, the Little White House, Hobe Fort, the consular residence, and the Red Castle. Tamsui is also a vibrant and planned city. It features the Fisherman's Wharf, perfect for watching sunsets, the bustling Tamsui Old Street, and the Tamsui and Bali ferry piers, where ferries navigate the scenic Blue Highway of the Tamsui River. Taipei Port now fulfills the role once held by Tamsui Port as a key hub for imports and exports, while the Danjiang Bridge connects Tamsui, Bali, and Taipei Port into a unified network. Since the MRT line's opening, daily passenger volumes from Taipei to Tamsui exceed 30,000 on weekdays and reach full capacity on weekends, ensuring that Tamsui's century-old legacy remains vibrant and celebrated to this day.